Right then, folks, welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. So it's a weekly wander through the world of electric cars, whether you are charging or relaxing or, I don't know, trying to look busy for the boss. This is the place for your electric car fix. So this week we talk about the Volkswagen ID.7, or the bits that we are allowed to talk about, the Kia Niro EV and the Mazda MX-30 EV. So joining me this week, because we have no Jenny this week, it is James Batchelor. Hi, Batch.
Hi, I'm so glad I'm back. I thought I'd blotted my copybook last time, but clearly not, because I'm here.
And of course, we have the ever fabulous Mike. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
The ever available Mike. Yes. No, I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Nice to be back. Yep.
So first things first, we need to discuss what we've been driving this week. So first things first, I'm gonna go straight with you, Mike, because last week's podcast, you were just about to head off to go and drive the VW ID.7. So I want to know how that went, or what you're allowed to tell us, because there's an embargo, right?
There is an embargo. It's a couple of weeks. I think it breaks next week. I drove through Storm Ciarán to get to Heathrow Airport, and it was the bumpiest takeoff I've ever experienced in my life. Anyway, we flew to Marseille, went to drive the Volkswagen ID.7, as you say, which is a kind of an odd car. I'm not entirely sure Volkswagen know why they're launching it as well either. Really, it's going to sit above ID.4, ID.5. It's a saloon, even though it's a hatch. They're careful not to sort of compare it to other models, but I guess it's kind of Ioniq 6 kind of money sort of dynamics as well. So it's an interesting
than an
package.
Ioniq 6, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is a little bit.
It's bigger than an Ioniq 6.
It is a little bit. Yeah. It's a very Volkswagen car. They've clearly turned their back on ID being funky new way. This is the new modern kind of way. It's very much like an Arteon or a big Passat, something like that. And it kind of takes the place of Passat because there's no saloon Passat anymore. It's going to be estate only. So if you want a big Volkswagen saloony shaped car, ID.7 is kind of going to be your only option. It's, I think it'll appeal to Volkswagen owners. It ticks all those boxes. It's well made. It's comfortable. It's a little bit bland. It's just all those kind of Volkswagen-y things. And I think they're kind of in their comfort zone. Now they're doing this 77 kilowatt hour battery and a new, bigger 86 kilowatt hour battery, which is the same one that goes in the Buzz long wheelbase. So yeah, it's an interesting car. I'm sworn to secrecy in terms of efficiency and how, because that counts as driving impressions, but it's quite interesting. You'll have to see next week when the review comes out.
I'm going to be honest, right? You've thrown out the word interesting quite a lot, which never normally bodes well. I don't know how you're feeling about that reaction, Batch, but like we're listening to Mike going, it's interesting because it's really interesting, which means I don't know if it's a good thing, but I guess we'll have to wait.
He's gagged by the embargo, isn't it? I mean, it's very difficult when you know that you are likely. If you say something wrong, you're going to get into trouble with some Germans. You've got to use the word interesting, I suppose, haven't you? So
that's true. Okay,
hasn't it
with interesting?
Isn't one of the big things though? Isn't it got a new infotainment screen? Isn't that one of the big things about this car, or have I made that up?
You haven't made that up, and we are allowed to talk to it because it's not a driving impression. So that information is out. I probably can't tell you how it works, but what I can tell you is yes, it is a bigger screen. It's version 4 of their software, which by their own admission should have been version 1. It's way better. I mean, it was flawless during our time, but it didn't miss a beat. And I think it does get a bad reputation, and I think it's one of those things that people found the first one awful. Even Volkswagen admit it wasn't ready. But I guess that's reputation sticks for. I mean, crikey, we're talking 3 years in, people are still referring to it as terrible Volkswagen. It's a load better than it was. And one thing I can tell you, which apparently was almost impossible to fix with the previous one, is that those sliders are now backlit. So if you're driving it in the hours of darkness, which this time of year is most of them, you can see the volume control and the heater control. So you're not sort of
finally.
Yes, exactly. I did ask the engineer about this, and he said you would not believe how complicated it was to add that in. We had to develop an entirely new unit. It was it was an oversight. It should have had it, but it didn't, and it was too late to change it. But it wasn't just a case of adding an extra 1 or 0 in the code to light those lights up. There was no provision for lighting those at all, and it would have been a complete hardware change, which is basically what they've had to do.
Oh, blimey. Well, I'm
God.
pleased that they've done it. And does it look nice while you're sliding and pressing those touchy slideys?
Interesting. Interesting's the word, isn't it?
I tell you what is interesting, Batch, is that the fact that we've got used to driving a car now with an enormous screen, just 2 or 3 inches to the left or the right of you, depends on the side of the car you're driving on. I think 2 or 3 years ago we'd have said, my goodness, that is really strange to be doing that. But we just get in now and we think, oh, that's fine. That's easy to read and it's straightforward. It is. There are a lot of controls on it. There's 1 or 2 controls that are physical buttons, but again, it's a bit like the EX30 in so much as an awful lot on there. But it is better. They have made it so much you haven't got to click different screens in order to then access all the kind of various bits and pieces. But I mean, there were 2 standout things of that launch. One, it was 3. One, it was interesting. Second was they put a very good soundtrack, and this is a kind of a new thing, isn't it? And they have soundtracks, playlists in the cars when you drive them, obviously to try and put you in the mood of giving them a good review, that kind of thing. This was sort of 80s and 90s bangers. It was, it was all killer, it was all killer, no filler. It was every track you thought, yeah, this is good. It was almost spookily kind of the sort of playlist you would choose yourself. I don't know how they do that because I'm an old fossil, so I quite like 80s and 90s stuff. But there were sort of younger guys on that launch, which must have thought it must have sounded like classical music to them. It was that old, but that was good. And the last thing was we had an hour and a half transfer to the airport, and we did them in an ID buzz. And it was one of those things. I've driven an ID buzz, but I've never ridden in the passenger seat or in the back. And it was just nice just to be taken in a car that you've written about and everything, and just realize, oh yeah, this is really nice. You haven't got to concentrate on the driving. It was a lovely thing. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Was it as nice in the back as you'll make it because you can't open those windows? So getting car sick that's a nightmare for anyone in the back of a buzz.
It's funny you should say that because one of the guys did arrive at the airport looking very green, ran straight past us, and we thought, oh, is he on an earlier flight? No, we were just trying to find the loo. So yeah, it was. Yes, I was in the front. I was all right. I called because I got circus act legs. I'm 6'5". I can't, I kind of said, I don't want to go in the back. So I had the front seat. But yeah, one of the guys in the other car was looking a little bit green. But anyway, enough of the ID7. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, come on, Batch. What you been driving? We haven't seen you for a while because you haven't been on this podcast for, I don't know, like a month.
No, and I've done a lot actually, which is nice. I've been driving lots of interesting things. I've driven the Niro EL6, which very interesting car actually. I hate to say this because I'm a journalist and you should go with an open mind, but I wasn't expecting a lot from this car. But it really impressed me actually. And I know we've spoken about the whole battery swapping tech before. And Nio themselves say that this is it's just a stepping stone. It's just trying to solve the problem we've got at the moment, which is the charging infrastructure not being brilliant when you desperately need it. But the car itself, really nice and premium. I mean, dare I say it, I would probably consider it over a Mercedes EQE SUV, actually. Interesting, possibly,
Whoa.
I don't know. So I did that. And then I flew immediately to Liverpool via Ryanair, which was my first ever Ryanair flight, but that's an entirely different story. We won't go there.
We were winding Batch up, telling him it needed to buy extra seats. Yeah, we were winding you up on that launch previously to telling them that you had to pay to use the toilet and that kind of thing. So you were a bit worried, weren't you?
I was very, very worried, yes. Actually, in my excitement there, I've said the story a little bit wrong. I was on the Mazda, the Volvo EX30 with Mike actually, and we had a lovely time, didn't we? Driving that car, which interesting. It's had load of different reviews. That car, I think we've given it quite a positive review. I agree with it. I think it's a bit of a game changer. So yeah, I've done that, and then I flew to Liverpool via Ryanair to drive the Mazda MX-30 REV, which is another car which is very, very divisive, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. How did you find it?
I really liked it, but it's
Don't say interesting.
it's it's one
It's
yeah, it's
interesting.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's one of those cars which is very difficult to recommend, which is a strange thing to say, I know. And the reason why I say that is I think you've got to really understand the technology and understand the heritage of Mazdas and rotary engines and all that kind of stuff to really get it. I think the normal person on the street who's perhaps considering whether they're going to be buying a full EV next time round or a range extender or a plug-in hybrid or whatever it is, I don't think they'll properly grasp it. And I think it's going to be a tough sell, that car.
Interesting. Because I haven't. I think I'm the only one. I'm the only one on this chat that hasn't sat in the MX-30 yet. So I don't. Yeah, I don't really know what to expect. But from everything that I've heard, it's you're going to use it again. It's interesting, and I'm
Well,
slightly concerned for the first moment that I sit in it.
well, sitting in it is one of the nicest things because the interior is lovely.
Yeah.
It's got
Really
cork everywhere. The build quality is lovely, and and Mazda, they don't like. We were just talking about massive touchscreens. Mazda don't like massive touchscreens. They like to have like a small screen with a little rotary wheel, like BMW do occasionally.
I like
So the interior is lovely. It's just that, it's probably not as efficient as you might hope it to be, and that's probably the biggest problem with it, really.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I have been driving. Well, I haven't really properly driven it. I've done like one trip in it. I took delivery this week of the Kia Niro EV, which we are shooting later on this week. At the moment, as it stands, for the first time ever, we are in a full electric car house.
Wow. How
So
come?
my husband's van, his Citroen Berlingo, broke down last week.
Oh.
So while it's in the garage, he is driving my current long-term car, my Genesis GV60, so that he can get around, and he's taking it to work and all that sort of stuff, while I'm now driving the Kia Niro EV. We are now a fully electric house, which has never happened before. We've always had, a backup petrol or whatever. And I mean, so far, we're just a couple of days in, but so far, so good. My first, it's my husband's first experience of driving an electric car, and he's absolutely loving it. And he's also, he said he's gutted that he's going to have to give it back to me and go back into the Berlingo once it's fixed. We'll have to get him an e-Berlingo at some point because he's got the dirty old diesel. But it's quite nice. We're both full-blown EV at the moment, which is quite a nice experience.
So
Very nice.
no complaints. Is he had to charge it? Can he get all his kit in it? What does he use the van for?
He can get so he fits carpets, and also he's an actor and he's in the West End at the moment, so he's using it at the moment to commute and also go to different sort of carpet jobs. The joys of being an actor.
That's a logical combination of roles, isn't it?
I know, yeah. But he's managed to get all of his stuff in and, folded the rear seats down, and that all worked very nicely. And he's mostly complimenting how quiet it is. I guess he's so used to driving a diesel that the moment he sat inside the Genesis, he was like, oh my God, it's silent. And then he also discovered the massaging seats. So he's more than happy at the moment.
Just quick
That's
question.
But I'm in the Niro. Yeah.
Quick question.
Go on,
Do the
Bash.
massaging, are they any good, the massaging seats in the GV60? Because in a lot of cars, they say, oh, we've got massaging seats. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like somebody just blowing a balloon in your back, isn't it? It's not pleasant at all.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because actually, so I've experienced a few different ones, right? So, like, first of all, my friend Hal has a Ford Puma that has massaging seats. That is literally just a little pump of air in your back, and that's pretty much it. But then I also got to be a passenger in the new Range Rover over the weekend because my brother-in-law has one. So I was sat and I was like, well, I have to try the massaging seats. That was very nice. Goes up the back. He's got the plug-in hybrid. Goes up the back and goes up to the shoulders. Not as firm as I wanted it to be because I requested intense. but it wasn't as intense as I would like. And I do have to say, the Genesis not only sort of does your lower back and the middle of your back, it's stronger, so it's more intense, but it also does like under the seats, like punches your bum cheeks. It's the
Oh,
best way to explain it.
Yeah. The ID
It's
the
very
ID7
nice.
has those. Yeah, and also does
What, the
the
bum
kind of
cheek punch?
the it's I mean the back stuff I had my seat back kicked by a 6-year-old on the flight on the way out, so I didn't really, I was kind of in the mood for not having any kind of massage effect on my back, but they made us try it out because it's one of the features of this
Yeah.
car. But yeah, the cheeks one is odd, isn't it? I'm probably not allowed to say it, but
It's
but all I
nice.
can say, it's odd. Yeah. Do you like it?
It's really nice. Yeah. But if you're on a long journey, I
Yeah.
mean, having something dig into your lower back is quite nice, but having something wiggle your bum a bit is really lovely. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Would you
no, no,
hang on?
no, no, no.
Oh,
I
okay.
realise we're operating in we operate in a sort of strange reality, don't we, as motoring car journalists, because we talk about this sort of things. But when you actually look at the spec sheet and it's like a £900 option, if it was your own hard-earned cash, if it was an extra £15 a month on the monthlies, would you
Ouch.
tick it, or would you just think, oh, it's lovely to try, but really?
If it was
No.
£15 a month, I would probably pay that. I would pay that for that.
There you go.
If it was just a normal back massage, I probably wouldn't have it. But the bum cheek punch
Okay.
is a real game changer. I think
No.
it's like, because it wiggles your pelvis a bit, and it's really nice if you've got lower back pain.
It's fine if you've got constipation, but it's just for me. There's just too much movement down there, and I just worry that of what might happen. So I don't like them. I hate them.
It's your bum cheeks. It's not, in a more
Nicola,
intimate place. It's your bum.
Nicola,
It just wiggles your hips.
I'm getting to the age now, though, that where any movement in that area, you just don't know what's going to happen. So I just don't like it. Just give me a back massage, not a bottom massage. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, give me a bum massage all day. Love it. Absolutely love it. I really do.
I really think we
Wow,
should move on.
this took a turn. This podcast, didn't it?
It did, didn't it? It really did. I also want to talk to you, Batch, because I saw you tweeted the other day about the best cars for towing, or the best EVs for towing. I mean, it's a really important thing for a lot of people that want to make the switch to electric cars, if they can go fully electric to tow their caravans or not, or if they should wait a little while. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, it is. And the way I always look at it is, if you think just the normal person on the street is a little bit skeptical at times of switching to an electric car, it's a whole different world when it comes to towing, because the typical tow car is still a big diesel SUV with a massive engine, massive amounts of torque, good fuel economy, all those kinds of things. So going electric is a massive thing for anybody who tows and goes away on caravan holidays and what have you. And the thing is, though, there are some fantastic electric cars out there at the moment that are fantastic at towing. And one of my most recent car I was driving for this purpose was the Skoda Enyaq Coupe, and great car for towing. Better than the BMW iX that I drove a few months ago for towing. Just
Really?
a really, really great long distance car. The only problem is that it can't do long distances, because I'm not saying anything extraordinary here. I'm sure all our listeners know this, but as soon as you put a caravan on the back of a car, the range goes south very, very quickly. So just driving normally, unhitched, I was getting around 270 miles from this Enyaq Coupe. Put a caravan on the back, and that goes down to 120 miles. And that's me driving by myself, not with a family on board, or with luggage on board, or stuff in the caravan. I think if you were taking that car on a proper towing holiday, you'd struggle to beat 80 miles, I think, before you had to tow, before you had to charge. And this is the problem. The cars themselves are great. It's just that the battery technology isn't quite there yet to tow stuff. But there is some really interesting stuff in the future, though. I mean, there's talk of caravans themselves actually having onboard generators and chargers and stuff to, to recoup all the lost energy, so that it's not taking power away from the car, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in the future. It's just at the moment, if you are considering going for an electric car when towing, you're going to have a bit of a stressful life, I think.
And charging is a whole world of pain as well, isn't it?
No, it is
because you got to hitch it. I mean, I know the Dutch are really good at this because they're Europe's biggest caravanners, aren't they? I think the Dutch. So a lot of those Fastnet charging stations are the drive-through ones, so you can, with space enough if you've got a caravan on the back of it. But in the UK, that's hard work, isn't it, at the moment?
No, and we just don't have them. And if you look at the main holiday routes, like the A303 and the key motorways, you just don't have service stations where you can sweep in there with a caravan, and you've got to unhitch your caravan, and people don't want to do that, and we could potentially have a future where you turn up at a services and the whole car park is strewn, absolutely littered with white plastic boxes, because people had to unhitch to actually charge up. So I mean, we frequently talk about how the charging infrastructure can be a little bit patchy in certain parts of the country. We are still a world away from the charging network, even considering lifestyle things such as charging tow cars and what have you. So there's a lot of work needs to be done before electric cars become commonplace, towing caravans on the back.
So this new potential tech in the caravan, that then the caravan would make the most of the regen braking, is that something that you could add on to an old caravan, or you'd have to buy a new caravan to get this new technology within the wheels or something?
Well, potentially, yes. I mean, you could add it, but I was talking to some caravan experts the other day, and they were saying it's all well and good, but how much is all of this componentry going to weigh? And it will affect the weight of the caravan, and then in turn, it'll affect the weight of the car. So really, what it needs is an entirely ground up new style of caravan that is designed to factor in all this technology in, really. So I mean, car makers and battery makers need to continue to develop tow cars, and equally the caravan industry needs to start thinking seriously about electric tow cars as well. So a lot needs to be done, and a lot of people need to talk to lots of other people to get this stuff done, really.
So there's an Osprey opened a station on the way to Cornwall and Devon. I think it's on the A30, and that had a drive-through towing bay. So I'll be interested to know if anyone who's listening to this has tried it or seen anyone using it. I think there's one of only a handful in the country, but that isn't on a sort of popular route. I guess it takes up so much space, doesn't it? And you've got real estate of a charging site. You want to pack it full of as many chargers as you can. And if you've got one that's going to take a car and a trailer or a caravan, then I guess that's space that you could have another charger unit in that's earning you money. So I guess it's a trade-off, isn't it? But if everyone's aiming there because they've got a caravan or trailer, then it might end up paying for itself. So it'll be interesting to know if anyone's been out there and driven and used it.
I mean, write down in the comments below if you've experienced before, or if you have any questions. That's nice. Did you see what I did there? See if people have some comments and questions, because I know that Mike's got a list of questions and comments that have come in over the few previous videos. So come on then, Mike.
Okay, I've been through the post bag, as they say. Found some good ones. There's a few bits and pieces commenting on stuff we've done. There's also people just telling us they're having a great time. There's a chap called Alistair L. said he had a mini trip of a lifetime to spend a day with his daughter driving the e-tron GT around the Nürburgring. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Gosh.
And guess what? And that wasn't the only win he had.
That
wasn't the only win he had. He said Sixt or 60. How do you pronounce that? That car hire place? 60?
Sixt.
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 He got bumped up on his booking, and he got a Mercedes EQS as his hire car. So I don't know what he booked. I don't know if he sort of booked a Corsa, petrol, and he got
What did
bumped
he
up to an
order?
EQS. But that is winning. That is winning the hire car lottery, isn't it? An EQS.
That never happens. That never happens. Normally, you'll end up being bumped down with any hire car.
Alistair, tell us how you did it. If you use a special code or something, or you were particularly nice at the desk, I don't know. But anyway, we move on. I had my 12 volt failed on the Ioniq 5 the other day, and misery. I was crawling through the boot to try and get all the various bits of space. Megaddy 36 helpfully says, buy a booster starter pack and leave it in the boot. You'll never get stuck again. I did have one in the boot. It didn't work. It was fully charged, but every time I connected it to the battery, the car went on, then went off. I went on, and then went off. And I put a little video that it looked horrendous. I thought it must be doing some damage at some point, but it wasn't. It was never on long enough to be able to switch it on, to be able to fire up the big battery to start charging the little one. And Mr. Mawson 2438. It's hard to imagine there's 242,437 other ones. But anyway, DC 2438. He said, helpfully, I'd say don't let the battery run down so much. So if only I'd listened to Mr. Mawson 2438.
If only.
I know. It wouldn't have happened.
It wasn't even that low, though, was it? It wasn't even that low.
It was 19%. It was 20% when I left it. It dropped down to 19% because the flaps were doing this, and it was obviously going to Blue Link and everything. And that was enough to, anyway. It's history. I'm over it. So you questioned how fast 50 knots was on that electric boat you were driving last week, Nicola. Well,
I didn't get to drive it. I just got to look at it.
Well,
but yeah.
Regardless. Andrew Mullen, 4003, says 50 knots is 57.5 miles per hour. Okay, so
that's pretty quick, isn't it, on water?
That would feel really quick on water.
Yeah.
And finally, a request which I think we'll be able to fulfill for once. Adam Shooter 6302 says, please can we have your long-term review on the Enyaq and Aria that you hinted at a while ago? We hint at a lot of stuff and it never gets done. But this is both a high up on his list for my first full EV. Well, Adam, it's coming. It's being filmed in the next week or so. We've got more updates coming for our Enyaq and our Aria.
It is a weird thing, isn't it, when you're driving like a long-term car, like so with the Genesis, because I was with Tom last week and I was doing some other little drivey bits. So Tom took the Genesis for an hour to kind of drive it around, and he was the one that was taking it to each location, and he was the one driving it. And he got out, and I went, well, and he went, I don't know if I like. I'm like, no, you can't. I think as well, because that's the joy of a long-term car. Is that it ends up fitting into your life, and you end up appreciating parts that someone driving it for 5 minutes doesn't actually understand or appreciate yet. So I do think long-term reviews are really, really important things. So I got really upset when Tom found some bits about the Genesis he didn't like.
Well, I think on that bombshell, we need to wrap up, really, don't we? Because people will have charged. They'll be ready to go unplug their cars by now. So I think that's probably it for this week.
Have we hit 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm proud of us. Well done. Lovely. I wasn't even keeping an eye on the time, you see.
Well, we could
done,
waffle
Mike,
on for hours, I know, but
Proud of
people have got lives, they've got stuff to do. So I think we better leave them in peace.
That's very true. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. I have no idea what the plan is for next week or who will be on or what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure that out next week. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.